feel like your history textbook was, playing favorites? Like, yeah, kings and queens are interesting and all, but what about everyone else? The drama, the struggles, what life was actually like in these kingdoms. That's what we're diving into today. The Celtic realms of Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. Getting past the official story and uncovering what made these places tick.
It's amazing how these kingdoms, even with those shared Celtic roots, they all went in such different directions.
Yeah.
Really shows you that one size fits all doesn't work for history.
Okay, so first up, Wales. Now forget those rolling green hills you might be picturing.
Yeah.
Our sources are painting a very different picture. Mountains, valleys, packed with people, everybody competing for resources and land. Talk about pressure. Like, hey, neighbor, nice sheep you got there. Be ashamed if something were to happen to it.
Exactly. That geography, it wasn't just a background, it was everything. It's like you have these close-knit family groups, but they're constantly struggling for power, for influence. Imagine the most intense family reunion ever, but the stakes are much, much higher.
And speaking of aiming high, we have to mention Griff ap Llywelyn. This guy, he didn't just want to be another king. He wanted to unite all of Wales under his rule.
Ambitious.
Totally. Spoiler alert, didn't really pan out.
Right.
But you have to admire the ambition, makes you think. Like the challenges of uniting people even today, especially with such strong regional identities.
Absolutely. And you see that tension throughout Welsh history. This idea of a high king was there, but in reality, even the powerful Welsh rulers, they often ended up swearing loyalty to the English monarchy.
Speaking of outside forces, Ireland's story takes a turn when the Vikings decide to, how do I put this, drop in. And I don't mean for tea and biscuits. Our sources describe it as a period of major upheaval when those Norse raiders arrived.
Yeah, you have to remember, before the Vikings, Ireland was this thriving center of monastic life. Christianity was spreading like wildfire thanks to figures like St. Patrick. And suddenly, the Vikings show up, completely shake things up. It wasn't all just raids and battles, though. The Vikings, they also brought about some big changes. Towns popped up, trade flourished. It was a real turning point for Ireland.
Talk about a plot twist. And in the middle of all this, you've got Brian Boru trying to wrangle control of Ireland. Imagine trying to unify a country with Vikings running rampant, leadership under pressure, to say the least.
He really did make a serious go at uniting Ireland, asserting their independence. But even after the Vikings were gone, the influence of the English, that was a huge factor. That tension, the struggle for autonomy, it becomes this recurring theme in Irish history.
And then there's Scotland. Talk about land of contrasts, right?
For sure.
Our sources describe this fascinating divide. You have the Highlanders, rugged and independent, holding on to tradition up in the Highlands. And then the Lowlanders, they were much more open to influence, particularly from England.
And we can't forget the Picts. They're still kind of a mystery, but it's obvious they played a major role in shaping Scotland alongside the Scots themselves. So you've got these very distinct groups all sharing this land, all with their own unique stories.
And here's the wild part. The Vikings, those agents of chaos, they actually ended up pushing the Picts and the Scots to work together. It's true what they say, right? Nothing brings people together like a common enemy. And from that uneasy alliance, you start to see a real Scottish identity emerge.
It's true. The Vikings, they were disruptive, absolutely, but they also kind of accidentally helped create these stronger identities in places like Scotland because people had to band together against a shared threat.
So we've got these three regions, each with their own unique story and cast of characters, but they're all connected by that shared Celtic heritage. What's the big takeaway here? What have we learned?
That history is messy. We can't just slap a label on these places and call it a day. These weren't just Celtic kingdoms. They were vibrant, complicated societies shaped by their geography, by internal power struggles, by the influence of outsiders. And if we understand that complexity, those layers of history, it helps us really appreciate the unique identities of Wales, Ireland, and Scotland even today.
It makes you wonder what other stories are hidden just below the surface, just waiting to be discovered. What if our textbook understanding of history is really just the tip of the iceberg? Something to think about next time you open up that history book or scroll through one on your phone, as the case may be.